Welcome to this fascinating journey into the scholarly world of Professor Chanchal Kumar Sharma, a scholarly voice in the field of federal studies. Today, we delve into his research on how fiscal federalism can either dampen or ignite secessionist tendencies. His ideas unfold across two significant works. First, an already published book chapter titled Conditional Concessions and Cessation of Secession. Second, a forthcoming article in the Routledge journal Political Science, available in January 2025, titled Does Fiscal Federalism Prevent or Provoke Secessionist Conflicts? Let us begin with Professor Chanchal's central question. How do fiscal policies, especially redistribution and equalization, impact the rise or resolution of secessionist conflict? His analysis highlights a delicate balance. On the one hand, insufficient fiscal equalization leaves poorer regions feeling neglected. On the other, excessive redistribution can provoke resentment among wealthier regions that feel unfairly burdened. Either extreme, Professor Chanchal demonstrates, can spark contestations with the potential to escalate into full-blown secessionist conflicts. Yet Professor Chanchal goes beyond merely diagnosing the problem. He presents the concept of negotiated cooperation and concessionary federalism, arguing that both policy design and political will must work hand in hand. According to him, an optimal system of fiscal federalism must walk a tightrope, empowering low-income states without expropriating wealthier ones. But how? Professor Chanchal maintains that a two-tiered approach is needed. First, independent fiscal institutions, IFIs, can offer balanced expert recommendations on incentivizing fiscal autonomy and equalization. However, as he carefully observes, these IFI suggestions alone are not enough. Political leaders, driven by local priorities and personal incentives, may resist or simply overlook such guidance. This leads us to the second part of his solution, institutionalizing intergovernmental negotiations. By establishing councils or forums where national and subnational representatives regularly convene to share their concerns, Professor Chanchal argues that a long-term and continuous process of dialogue encourages stakeholders to see common interests where once they saw only conflict. This encourages the spirit of negotiations and mutual concessions. Secondly, reciprocal concessions help all parties feel heard and rewarded, discouraging the temptation to deviate from mutually beneficial solutions. However, Professor Chanchal warns us about a common pitfall. Simply reaching a set of binding outputs or agreements is not enough if they are not backed by binding inputs, that is, a prior, constitutionally grounded set of principles or expert recommendations that define the boundaries of negotiation. This, he contends, will discourage opportunistic behavior. A robust framework for negotiations plus repeated interactions over time can gradually reduce opportunism and foster sustainable cooperation among different levels of government. Momentary pause for emphasis. In simpler terms, think of designing a fiscal system as composing a symphony. Each note, autonomy, equalization, and negotiation must harmonize, ensuring all parties feel fairly treated. If this harmony is lost, discontented regions can slip into the trap of radical secessionist agendas. Professor Chanchal also developed what he calls the ethno-economic overlap thesis. The idea that when national minority identities coincide with either low-income or high-income grievances, fiscal disputes can quickly turn into secessionist demands. Economic frustration layered on top of identity-based grievances is an especially potent catalyst for rebellion. This dovetails with his twin catalyst thesis, which holds that the tipping point toward violence often comes when there are both institutional failures to address legitimate grievances and a growing sense of identity-based injustice. Drawing on case studies, Professor Chanchal illustrates how targeted concessions sometimes can diffuse tensions even after violence has flared, as in Assam. Yet, other situations like Kashmir reveal a sobering reality. No matter how substantial concessions may appear, they fall flat if the benefits never reach ordinary people due to elite capture, systemic corruption, or limited local governance. Essentially, tangible outcomes matter more than symbolic gestures. Tamil Nadu and Punjab, on the other hand, suggest that transparent competitive elections, where corrupt or ineffective leaders can be voted out, are a crucial guardrail against the resurgence of secessionist impulses. So, where do we go from here? Professor Chanchal concludes that effective conflict resolution rests on three key pillars. First, balanced policy frameworks that prevent fiscal mismanagement and corruption. Second, responsive institutions that maintain public trust in democracy. And finally, empowered intergovernmental councils equipped with crystal-clear guidelines and the authority to enforce mutually agreed-upon concessions. He terms this institutional design concessionary federalism, underscoring the need for continuous dialogue and reciprocal give and take. He emphasizes that no matter how sound an economic recommendation is, it won't bear fruit unless political actors come to the table with genuine long-term commitment to negotiation and cooperation. Finally, Professor Chanchal invites further research to refine and test these theories, be it through detailed case studies or broader statistical analyses. After all, fiscal federalism is not just about money, it is about people's livelihoods, collective identities, and, ultimately, the fragile bonds that tie nations together. This, friends, is the intellectual tapestry woven by Professor Chanchal Kumar Sharma, drawn from his book Chapter Conditional Concessions and Cessation of Secession, and his forthcoming article Does Fiscal Federalism Prevent or Provoke Secessionist Conflicts?, which will be published in the journal Political Science in January 2025. We hope this glimpse into his research has inspired you to think more deeply about the power of fiscal policy, the necessity of robust institutions, and the delicate balance required to maintain national unity. Thank you for joining us on this scholarly voyage. Until next time, may thoughtful dialogue and informed policy making guide us toward a future free from internal conflicts.